I gave you the, okay, great.
Now just, okay,
What?
can you share the screen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So we're
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll continue. So back to Unity. We talked about the cube prefab. You remember that we instantiated a cube prefab. So I want to talk about that. So a prefab is basically a class that represents something that will be rendered. Okay. All it means is to be rendered to the screen. It's not the same like the sample main object that we talked about before, which is only a script. Okay. So prefab is a class that is gonna be rendered in some way. And I'm not gonna explain how I created it, but I do want to talk about the way it's about its components. Okay. And you see that there is a component here called simple entity. Okay. And simple entity is an object that I wrote. Okay. This is the script that I wrote, and I want to show you it now. I'm going to show it to you now. So simple entity. So a cube is a basic cube. There is nothing fancy about it. You could use cubes all around. It's not fancy at all. And all I have been doing is adding a component to it. So adding component in Unity allows you to add functionality to the object. Okay. So here is simple entity, and you see that simple entity derives from an interface called RS entity. And RS entity dictates two functions: decode and encode. And decode, you recall that we saw decode in the sample app main, right? We had decode here. Remember? I told you that I could instantiate a cube and decode it. And the reason that I could decode it is because it has a component called IRS entity. Okay? So when you call the decode function, this is the actual function that's going to be called. Okay? And all I did here was just taking the RGB components of the color. It's the red, green, blue components, right? And I decoded them and set the color of the cube. Okay? And the encoding is just the opposite, taking the color, taking the RGB component, okay? And just saving the values of the RGB color, okay, as byte array. You see here? And I don't want to get into, it's a technical thing. You can do that offline. Just take a look at it. If something is not clear enough, because I don't want to get to I don't want to explain too much, because I don't think it has any relation to the core thing that I want to talk about. Okay, it's just a technical thing of encoding, decoding, serialization, deserialization. Okay, so we have the simple entity, and I told you that RS entity dictates two functions: decode and encode. And you can see that there is that keyword here from C#, override, which indicates that this is dictated by the interface IRS entity. Okay, and that's all. And the last thing I think that there is in sample main is the that's it, I guess. This is the anchor. Okay, I could get with. I don't think that we need to explain the anchor, because for you it's like a black box. Okay, it's like something that you use. You don't care about the details. You don't need to understand anything about it, except that it has a position, and wherever you position it is going to be registered with our SDK. Okay, and if you recall, we did that in our main when we instantiated the cube. Okay, we gave it a position. This is the way to give a position. Okay. And once we add a position to the cube and added it to the transform of the anchor, that was the way we registered the cube to the anchor, and all the magic is done under the hood. You don't really need to understand the details. That's it, I guess. So we have anchors, we have cube, which is the object that the user wants to add to the scene. And I guess that's all. If you have questions, if you want to go, if there is something that wasn't clear enough, if you want me to go back to something.
I just have a question about the awake function right here.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's calling the toUnity object, that's when it's like finding the anchors and finding all the cubes and being able to display data that was already like previously put there. Is the awake function just called when the application is started? Because then how would it find them like each time you're moving to say like a different room?
Okay, that's a great question. Yeah, because there is only one sample app main, it's a singleton, okay? And because awake is being called only once, and it's called on the very first beginning of the app. So you can think about it as the main function that's being called only once and only when the application is being fired. So once we got here, and I told you before, I created only one anchor each time the app is being fired, like it's been started, okay? Mm-hmm. So if I start the application, on the one end, I create an anchor, okay? That's the first thing I do. On the other hand, we have that function, right? That tells me about anchors that been placed previously in different rooms, okay? So once I initialize the lib side with onStatus, okay? So once I did that, I can start receiving notifications from the SDK about objects that are being added, okay? And once I have objects, I can understand that there was an anchor that was previously there and being recognized by the SDK, okay? So the way we get information that other anchors has been found in the room is by getting that function callback with the data, okay? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so I was just wondering, like, if someone, say, then adds a cube in the middle of a session and then they leave that room and like go back to that room, then would they still be able to see that cube that it was there because it's just placed? And then, but if they like reload the app again, it will still be there because it's finding them in like all the rooms at the same time. It's not like finding them as you
exactly
go. Okay.
It finds them as you go, but if you are in the same room, okay, like the minute you start the engine,
mm-hmm.
okay, it periodically tries to relocalize itself against previous anchors, okay? It does that all the time. It's something that's been done in the background, and it happens
mm-hmm.
all the time. The SDK way to notify the app about new anchors, or more specifically about new cubes, which is the user data that's been attached to that anchor, is by this function, toUnity object, okay? The toUnity object says, okay, I recognize the anchor, and now I have objects connected to it, but I don't know how to instantiate them. So tell me, what should I do with them? Because I have like I have a buffer, I have a stream of bytes, which I got from the SDK, but I don't know what to do with them. Tell me what to do. In our case, I'm looking at I know that the stream, the buffer, is the RGB information I previously added to the cube, so I know what to do with it. But it could be anything else. It could be a JSON object with, dictionary. It could be a position. It could be, I don't know, it could be a very complicated mesh. It could be a lot of things. It could be the name of the object, and then I could instantiate different types according to the name. I could do something like a dictionary, right? I could say, If the name is cube, I know that I need to instantiate a cube. If the name is another polygon, I could instantiate that polygon, right? And etc. etc. But the process of recognizing previous anchors is being done all the time, and it's being done under the hood. You don't need to initialize anything. And this callback is the entry point for that relocalization process, for that revealing process, okay?
Okay, that makes sense.
Anything else?
I had a question. I think you answered it here, but I just want to confirm. So say this is the cube prefab, it's going to have the RS anchor. If you added another prefab, like say a sphere, would that sphere point to the same RS anchor, or would you add a new RS anchor for the sphere?
That's a great question. And I refer you to those two lines, okay, where I told you that I could instantiate whatever object that I want. So here specifically, I just add cubes, but I could add sphere, as you said, and add it to the same anchor. And all it means is that once this anchor is gonna be located by the SDK, all the objects that previously were registered with it are gonna be shown to the user, okay? So every object that's being added to the anchor, our SDK is gonna bring it back in the to Unity object once the app is reloaded, okay, and you're in the same room. So all the objects are being gathered and pushed to the app, and you can do with them whatever you want. Instantiate them, I don't know, you decide. But you need to understand that the SDK is all about positioning. And it sounds very simple, but it's one of the biggest difficulties in augmented reality, okay? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. One sec. Okay. So yeah, so it's a holy grail. Okay, it's not something that's easy to do. We as people, when we get near to the let's say the Eiffel Tower, okay. So even if we were in a coma and we were awakened just near the Eiffel Tower and we looked at it, we would know that we are in Paris, right? Because we have that ability to relocalize ourselves in the real world. But the computer, or for that matter, our device, is not able to do the same. It needs something that will help him to understand that this place is somewhere that I've been to before, okay, or someone else, or to understand that this area is already been visited and some object has been placed there. So that whole process, we try to expose to the user the simplest API we could think about, okay? So you don't have to deal with that. You just add objects all around and magically they're gonna be there on your next execute. You don't need to think about it. But this process of saving objects in the world and reloading them it's a huge thing in augmented reality and computer vision. It's a very complicated process, and we have a lot of machine learning and computer vision algorithms that we use and we take advantage of in order to bring that experience, to lower the bar for you, for developers like you, to be able to use those kinds of applications of experiences in augmented reality. And I think this one is an enabler. It unlocks a lot of abilities that you couldn't do without our SDK. So that's it. So I hope it's not too much complicated. I hope like you'll find your way through the code. And even if you don't, or if you don't remember, that's fine. You can ping me. You can send me an email. You can send me I'm on Discord, so you can just, message me, you can DM me and tell me, listen, can you help me with that, We can hop on in a short Zoom. I could go over your code. Feel free to, whatever you need, I'm here for you, okay?
Thank you so much. This was really helpful. I really appreciate
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, for
Thank you very much.
understand more about it. I'm gonna take these videos and upload them. So and send you guys a link so you can use it. And basically, I think it's wonderful that we have it anyway. Anyhow, so I mean, it shows what's going on under the hood. Okay, so this is for my. Thanks for that. For my direction. Okay.
So Victoria, Pruva, thank you very, very much for being patient and for working with us. And we're here if you need anything.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
definitely
Okay.
gonna share the